History is the definition of Louisville men's basketball. For a team that's seen so much success in the past, the 2025-26 season revitalized what was a once excellent Cardinal basketball squad, reaching up to number 8 in the nation and looking primed to compete for another national title. But things have hit the fan ever since. So similar to a Syracuse squad that came into the year with high expectations, it has not lived up to the hype. So with many lows for Adrian Autry's squad, can Syracuse make it a solid final 2 games of the season, or will Louisville continue their push towards another NCAA tournament appearance? It's Live Cuse Countdown, and it starts right now. There's not much better than a live CC here in our CitrusTV studios. I'm Nathaniel Cunningham. That's John Boccio. That's Griffin, Marcy. We're here to break down everything between Syracuse and Louisville. But before we get there, we have to look at the last time the Orange took the hardwood against a Wake Forest squad, where they came out with an 88-83 loss. John, it feels like we've said this a bunch this season, but another second half collapse for the Orange.
Yeah, what a surprise. I mean, Syracuse absolutely fell apart in that second half, and it wasn't really that surprising to say the least. I mean, it felt like a pineapple was in the building, the way that Syracuse's defense just got prickled apart all second half long. The final 20 minutes, Wake shot over nearly 60% from the field and over 60% from 3-on-4 triples, 8 of 9 from the line, and Syracuse's offense just couldn't simply match it, and that was the downfall for SU in that one. Syracuse just fell apart when it needed to stay intact, and that ended up being that.
To me, what was so interesting is how you completely lit the building on fire in the first half from downtown, hitting 10 threes in the first half. But then in the second half, lights got too bright, the chandeliers turned on, and Syracuse just couldn't handle it. And it was mainly they struggled on defense. But again, what happened to the offense that was so potent in the first half for it to completely fall and melt apart? I get it, the shots aren't going to be there, but still, to go from completely one end of the spectrum all the way to the other is just nonsense, but another just completely encapsulating game for the season.
Those final 20 minutes have really been the problem for Syracuse this season, but nonetheless, Syracuse head coach Adrian Autry has been rather positive after most of these games. Yet after the loss to the Demon Deacons, he wasn't so positive.
Yeah, again, this is a choice that every player has to make. You know, the time and the effort that we spend in coaching and showing and pushing and challenging and trying to get them to understand what it takes to win basketball games, and we just keep coming up short, so I guess that's on me.
So with Syracuse continuing to come up short, Adrian Autry puts a little bit of blame on the players and a little bit on himself. So Griffin, who is the blame really on?
Well, the morale of this squad has been busted into pieces, and what do I truly think it's a product of? An overarching snowball effect. This team felt like it was on the up after only losing to top 5 Houston by 4 in overtime. It then leaves Vegas 0-3. But immediately after, knocks off a top 15 Tennessee in front of a packed home crowd. Fans are thinking, this is it. It's finally the year SU climbs back into the NCAA tournament. Then what happens just a week later? The Orange fall to Hofstra. Syracuse seemed down, but not totally out. It wins out in non-conference play and then reaches a big dog in the ACC. Clemson, loss. Still not out of it yet. 3 straight wins came after to rile the fans back in. Then came Boston College, the worst team in the conference. Should be no problem, except it was. SU falls in overtime, and this is where the snowball effect kicks in. 1 ACC loss turned into 4 straight. The Orange finally get a win over Notre Dame, then get clobbered by top 20 North Carolina. Carmelo Anthony comments on a Syracuse basketball post, SMFH. Use your imagination to figure out what that means. Kai and Anthony hits the bench the next game, and this team never recovers. Everyone was out of it. Donnie Freeman gets cold. Nate Kings is up and down. Nate George forgets how to command the floor. J.J. Starling doesn't know what to do without the ball constantly in his hands. The bench has no production. The players gave up as soon as the slide occurred, and the Orange had no way to claw themselves back into meaningful basketball once that happened. So while Adrian Autry may be to blame for some of it, he didn't lose the locker room. The locker room lost him. And you heard it in his voice after the loss to Wake Forest. This team, quote, wasn't tough. And that showed game in and game out after one silly non-conference loss to Hofstra.
Well, John, you can put a lot of blame on Coach Autry immediately, but there's no question the players do deserve a hefty weight on their shoulders. At the end of the day, there's only one head of the snake, and that's Coach Autry. He recruited these players that don't have the dog mentality in them and with a narrow-minded focus on offense, and you can tell it's officially run its course on Coach.
You got to do tough things. You got to make tough plays. You got to have resistance. You got to be able to defend. And, you know, we just don't do that. We've been inconsistent all year, and that's reflected in our record. That's been the challenge all year, is to get people to care about that end of the floor and not only the offensive end of the floor. And, you know, and so, you know, until that mindset changes, our results are going to be mixed. But you got to be tough, and you got to be able to play both ends of the floor in college basketball. In basketball.
Now that's the look of a defeated man after another ACC loss on the road, something that's apparently just been all too common for Syracuse under Coach Autry the last 2 seasons. It's been really ugly. SU has lost 6 in a row when it's not in the sunny and 70 degrees environment of the JMA Wireless Dome, and outside of year 1, it's been bad on the road altogether. 4-15 on the road in the last 2 years, and in large part of that, it's not due to the players or the recruiting. It's because of a lack of a consistent system available to be implemented no matter who you play or no matter where you play. That is stuff that is controlled by the coaching staff. And the most curious part of it all is what happened after year 1. You went 20-12, finished near the bubble, but ever since then, it's been unfortunately unacceptable against top teams by Syracuse basketball standards. Only one signature win against Tennessee earlier this year, and hopefully fans enjoyed that court storm because there wasn't much good the rest of the year. So Coach Autry has spent most of his adult life here in Syracuse and wants to win just as bad as all the fans and players, and probably even more than the players. But at the end of the day, it just hasn't worked. His system hasn't been implemented. The plays aren't working, and there's no need for the boos or the calls for his job because at this point, everyone knows whose fault it is. Everyone knows this has all run its course and changes on the horizon, but it doesn't mean he's absolved of any fault, and a large part of this goes on his shoulders. All right, let's go over to Nate with some big picture stuff.
Well, Griffin, you're saying it's Coach Autry, and Adrian, John, you're pointing the finger at the players. But why are we in this place of even pointing fingers at the first place? Well, to start ACC play, Syracuse was 3-1. But then 4 straight losses occurred for the first time under head coach Adrian Autry, and the Orange looked soulless and deflated. 2 weeks later, this happened. Syracuse's 37-point loss to Duke marked the 5th worst loss in program history, meaning that same team with all the talent in the world turned into an image no one had seen before. But they say the past is the past. So what does this mean for the future? At least this season, it looks as if Syracuse will miss its 5th straight NCAA tournament, something that hasn't happened since the early 70s. Yet this year goes above just play on the court. Syracuse is one of the most historic programs in not just college basketball, but college sports. But with the departures of Chancellor Kent Severud, Athletic Director John Wildhack, and Senior Deputy AD Herman Frazier, along with HR reports against Senior Deputy to both the Chancellor and AD Heather Like, Syracuse is in a weird spot, one that new Chancellor Michael Haney will have to figure out. With the balance of NIL, media rights, and plummeting programs, next year may be the most important in Syracuse athletics history because a once national powerhouse is on the verge of becoming just another school. We've come up on our first break here on Live CC, but when we come back, Max Gifford down in the KFC Yum Center joins us to give us some insight on this Louisville squad. Welcome back into a live edition of Cuse Countdown. I'm Nathaniel Cunningham. That's John Boccio. That's Griffin, Marcy. Three of us, it's pretty cool, but how about we add a fourth? Max Gifford down in Louisville right now joins us to break down a little bit of this game between Syracuse and Louisville. Max, thank you so much for joining us. First question for you. Does this Syracuse squad even have a chance at competing against a once-ranked Cardinals team?
Well, Nate, a once-ranked Cardinals team is a bit of an understatement because this team has been ranked every single week of the season, except for this past weekend. Back-to-back losses to Clemson and North Carolina was enough for the AP committee to say, okay, they're not on the poll this week, but this was a team that was all the way up to number 6 in the country at one point in the season, so I think that's doing them a little bit of a disservice, just saying that they were once ranked, because they've pretty much been ranked the entire season. But I'll kind of give you an answer with a question. What makes you think they can be competitive with this Louisville team, especially considering they've been ranked most of this season, and Syracuse hasn't even sniffed the top 25 all year, haven't been consistent on the road. I love the stat that was said earlier. 4-15 on the road in the last stretch for SU, have lost 6 consecutive road games this season. It's crazy that the last time the Orange won on the road was against Pitt in early January, but the Orange haven't shown any fight. They haven't been tough on the road. Adrian Autry's been stressing that. And the fact that he has to stress that this late in the season shows you that there are some other problems with this team. But I'm not very confident in this team on the road against a Cardinals team that definitely has a fire lit under them after not being in the top 25 for the first time all season.
Max, it's pretty clear you're not confident in them. I don't think any of us are either, to be completely honest. However, that does beg the question, while Syracuse may be out of it, what are some positives that SU could take away from this one?
Now, John, I think it's fair to say that I'm not very confident in this game, but the Orange still, in theory, are playing with house money. You already know at this point, Adrian Autry is likely in his final week as an SU coach, or his last 2 weeks if you throw in the ACC tournament. And the Orange have locked up that ACC tournament spot, despite not really clinching in a way. They just secured a win because there is no scenario where they do not make it in. But the Orange still have a chance to get a signature win under Adrian Autry this season. They're just 1-9 in quad 1 games this season, and a chance to get a signature win on the road would be a great way to send Adrian Autry off into the sunset with something to smile about. We know how much he cares about this Orange team, this Orange family, and this Orange community. It's been tough that he hasn't really had the results he would want in his dream job. But I think that with Michael Brown out of the fold for Louisville, you do have a chance to maybe limit some points for this Cardinals offense that is number 1 in the ACC. But at the same time, you still have to play in a very raucous road environment. This place is pretty cool right now. You can see the lights behind me. They're getting into it, and these fans have shown out, and they're ready for their final home game of the season.
Max, one of the biggest problems for this Syracuse team all season long has been the lack of size. Its tallest 2 players, Donnie Freeman and William Kyle, both standing at 6'9". Now, this Louisville team is a lot bigger overall. How do you think Syracuse can match up size-wise tonight?
Yeah, on paper, it does not seem like Syracuse matches up very well. There are 8 players on this Cardinals squad that are 6'7" or taller, and then if you split that in half, 4 of them are 6'10" or taller. Now, granted, all of those guys aren't playing consistent minutes, but you already have that big paint presence, and we know the Orange at times this season have lost that paint battle pretty significantly. That Virginia battle comes to mind, especially when it comes to the offensive rebounding category, and Louisville is a very, very good defensive rebounding team. So the Orange have to be sharp on the boards, but Louisville is taller. That doesn't mean they're not turnover prone, though. They turn the ball over a heck of a lot. They're second to last in the conference in turnovers per game, and I think if the Orange can potentially get some blocks, maybe Donnie Freeman and William Kyle, posterize some of these players and potentially get the ball out of the lane and get Syracuse some fast break points. There's also a chance you have J.J. Starling, maybe Nate Kings or Nate George, pick some pockets as well. I think Michael Brown being out does play a factor in that. You don't necessarily have that handling guard as much, so they're going to have to look at different options with him being out. And I think it's going to be turnovers that are the difference if the Orange want to come out with a win today. But very hard to do against a very, very tall Cardinals team.
Max, an excellent analysis as always. Boots on the ground. We appreciate it. And he'll be on at Orange Press Pass after the game as well, so you'll want to tune in there as well. We've come up on another break here on Live Cuse Countdown. When we come back, these two will break down a couple of our marquee matchups for the game. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back in to Cuse Countdown. I'm Nathaniel Cunningham. Normally, both John and Griffin join me here at the desk, and we start to break down a little bit about this game, but nothing about this live CC has been traditional. So those guys, they stayed over at the wall, and instead of having just one marquee matchup, we're gonna have three. So guys, as we sit here and we start to actually look at the X's and O's of this game, we're starting with two of those big men like Max was talking about, Donnie Freeman and Sananda Frew. Who's going to win the marquee matchup between those?
Well, Nate, I'll tell you exactly who I've got in this marquee matchup between Frew and Freeman. That'll be the Louisville big man, Sananda Frew, and we're going to show you exactly why in just a moment. Not only is he an athletic freak, he is dominant in and outside of the paint. He can also do it on both sides of the floor. And we'll show you exactly why here. Let's roll it, because this one is a pretty big one for Sananda Frew. Well, he gets a block on one end of the floor, and then he comes up the other end, bang, yams it down. Not only is he filling the lanes, which we'll show you more of in just a moment, stays in front of his man, stays poised, gets up for the block, and then runs up the floor. And you can see this is just smart basketball here. Reads where the defender is going, fills the lane perfectly, an easy reverse jam for the slam. Sananda Frew, not the most poised player in terms of points per game, but God, he's an athletic freak, Griffin.
I'm sure he's great and all this and all of that, but we got to talk about the human highlight reel, the human chandelier, Donnie Freeman. This guy is an absolute monster. Let's roll the tape here. He can work out from wherever he wants. Goes back to the basket, fadeaway jumper, one-legged Dirk floater. I mean, this guy can do it all. And you know what else he can do? He can throw it on the offensive glass. Fighting on the inside, goes up and puts one in. There's nobody else that's going to be able to compete with him athletically in this game. And you know what? He's got the speed to get down the lane as well.
Yeah, well, Donnie Freeman's played decent this year, but I think Sananda Frew's versatility has really put him over the edge. Another battle that you're going to see a lot of throughout this game is the battle of backcourts, guards on guards, and let's just say Louisville's as sweet as a pineapple. Let's show you exactly why that is, because there are a bunch of players on this team that contribute oh so consistently. And I mean, it's because this entire team dominated by guards. There are way more guys in this team. I mean, you see Syracuse's backcourt here, and that's just a testament to, okay, they've got a couple players that can show out, but nothing all that insane. I mean, Nate Kings and Nate George, they can be on and off at times, but when you look at Louisville's backcourt, they have a ton of talent that can really get into it consistently, and there are so many different guys that average double digits, and they're sharpshooters.
See, but the thing about Louisville is not having their key players like Michael Brown. We'll show you what Louisville's got here in the backcourt right now, but it's just not going to match up against Syracuse. Let's see what Louisville's got out there. You know, look at these plays. Like, nobody's guarding them. If that's Syracuse,
that's a trigger finger.
They're going out there at Syracuse. They're locked out there on the perimeter. Former Syracuse guard Quincy Copeland, he's out of here for a reason. Syracuse's backcourt would have been in the grill, fighting all over.
You're telling me Nate Kings is hitting that? Not a chance.
Yes, he is. You see,
Isaac McNeely has a trigger finger of dreams.
He's just a catch and shoot shooter. Syracuse.
He just hit it off the dribble twice in a row.
No, that one was he walking in a hand.
Javon Hardy steal.
Oh, he can make
got
it
it on the
up
other end too.
I'm sure that was Syracuse would really struggle doing the same thing. Syracuse has those on-ball creators like Nate George that can do plays just
no
like
one on
that.
Syracuse can make a play like that. Not at all.
Catch and shoot. That's got Nate King's written all over it. Syracuse absolutely can handle this one for sure.
Well, I mean, we've talked about both of these backcourts, a big man battle, but let's think about these teams as a whole. Both of these seasons for both Louisville and Syracuse haven't gone too swimmingly, to say the least, but which one is more disappointing? Well, that's a question that I think is fairly obvious to a point. Yes, Syracuse has fallen below expectations, but if you're a realist, you saw this one coming. If you were a realist, you had no idea that Louisville was going to fall from a top 3 team in the conference to 7th in ACC standings. I mean, Louisville coming into this year was a top 10 team that has fallen from the graces. It's lost 3 of its last 4. Recent games in February have not treated the Cardinals kindly, and that's exactly why they have for sure been more disappointing this season, purely because the expectations were set so high, and being a tournament team is not a sufficient answer to how good they were meant to be.
Well, it doesn't matter how Louisville is still in tournament conversation. Syracuse, on the other hand, this was supposed to be the year you break in, and you know what happens? You fall flat on your face. It's completely, they put so much into this transfer class that's, for the most part, they've had their highs, but it's been a lot of lows. Not what you expected out of your guys. Nate George led the ACC in assists last year. Now he looks like a lost puppy out there all season long. And Nate Kings, he's been your highlight, but they just don't have the guys consistently compete. That's why they're more disappointing.
Well, yeah, you also see that Michael Brown has been good this season, but once again, he's out tonight. How much is he going to really play once it gets to ACC and NCAA tournament time? That's also up in the air. And if Syracuse falls, or if Louisville falls flat because Michael Brown is out, that's pretty shocking, and no one expected depth to be the issue why Louisville goes out of the tournament.
Well, you know what? I think that's a big deal, though, is getting the depth of this game. And that's why I think getting Ryan Conwell out of this season has been huge. But again, Louisville is going to be in the NCAA tournament.
Which is not the expectation for them. The expectation for Louisville heading in was that you were a top 4 seed in the tournament.
More disappointing, going from a 4 seed to a 7 seed. That's great. How about going from a 7 seed to sitting on your couch for the rest of the summer?
No one thought Syracuse would be a 7 seed, Griffin. Come on.
It's just a reasonable expectation. Maybe this could have been the year. And
if that was a reasonable
7 seed, 10 seed, doesn't matter. Now they're done.
If that was a reasonable expectation, your expectations are about like a pineapple if it wasn't prickly. I mean, that is just absurd. Like that, outlandish. But anyways, we've got more Cuse Countdown for you on the other side, where we've got even more coverage of Syracuse and Louisville, a little ACC tournament preview, and our keys and predictions for the game. You won't want to miss it here on CC.
So Nate was supposed to...
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you guys didn't forget about me. These two were just going so deep into the X's and O's, I had to let them keep cruising.
Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome back into Live CC. I'm Nathaniel Cunningham. That's John Boccio. That's Griffin, Marcy. We're wrapping up shop as we get ready for tip-off between Syracuse and Louisville. But before we get into that one, we have to look at the ACC tournament as a whole, because it's now time where we get into those conference tournament. We start getting ready for the true madness that they call March. But Syracuse really is not set up in a good spot. We talked about the fact they are guaranteed to be in the ACC tournament, but if they lose out, they're that 15 seed, not a spot they want to be, John.
No, not in the slightest. And is the expectation that they lose that first game? I mean, probably, but at the end of the day, it is, again, the expectation. Currently, the 14 seed projected to go against Stanford, still with 2 games to go in this season. They could fall as low as 15 and be in Pitt's spot. If Pittsburgh wins against Syracuse on Saturday, it's a sticky situation, but they were honestly going to be out of the tournament for a good amount of time. So the fact that they're in is probably a saving grace for the Orange.
It really is. It's something that could have been really ugly. Go take a look at this graphic here. Look at all those beautiful arms extended. It looks like a great chandelier with all the range it has. But I think it's not the worst draw with the way things would end right now. Stanford, a team you haven't seen yet, and then going against NC State. The thing is that this line right here, this 5 through 9 line, can do a lot of shuffling. So maybe you get lucky and you draw Clemson again, a team that you went down to a 1-possession game with. You manage that, you get 2 wins there. Miami, another winnable game. There is, like, in some planet a way where you can run the table here, but it's not going to happen.
Let's also not forget, NC State a couple of years ago did have an incredible run, and I know we're talking favorability.
William Kyle, DJ Burns,
but if Syracuse can move up to the 15 seed and they get stuck
move up to the 15,
move down to the 15 seed,
but
they get stuck against an SMU team. Let's not forget how that one ended last time out, and then you have kind of a little bit more of a favorable path.
It's not like SMU's as green as the top of a pineapple. I mean, they are not looking great.
I mean, listen, the rest of this ACC tournament has a lot of reach. Almost, you could say a lot of reach like a pterodactyl would. I know that's a favorite word of yours, Griffin. But we've still got to look around the rest of the ACC because there's a bunch of action going on as well. And with all of the action here tonight, you see Virginia in a close one there with Wake Forest. We saw this Wake Forest team in action full in itself. But how about Clemson? That's a former ranked squad as well. Could pick up a nice win before March.
It really could be a good resume-building win. We saw, like I said, that line where they could be at the 5 line right now in the ACC. They could drop all the way down to that 6-7 spot. So we really could see how that could work out. It's a game that, it's all these games, one little switch can change the whole thing of the bracket at this point in time in conference play.
Wake Forest also giving Virginia some problems. I mean, I guess that boosts the resume of Syracuse at the end of the day.
Yes, the resume of Syracuse.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the prettiest one of all time, but if Wake is actually a solid team, then who knows what damage SU can do in the tournament.
Anything can happen in March, just like anything can happen tonight between Syracuse and Louisville. It's time to get into our keys for this one. John, what does Syracuse need to do to come out on top?
Well, it's pretty simple. They did this against Wake Forest, and if you do it tonight, you're going to get caught lacking, and that's giving up. Syracuse cannot give up against the Cardinals. It needs to be a strong 40 minutes of game time, not a strong 20, 25, 30. You need to stay consistent the whole way through if you actually want to make some noise in this game.
My key to this game is going to be similar, but a more focused of pace and intensity. You need to play fast, your guards need to get downhill, and you need to establish the physicality in this game. You can't be the one that's getting pushed and shoved around. You need to be the one setting the tone from start to finish for a full 40 minutes.
Well, Griffin, let's assume that Syracuse does use that pace and intensity to themselves. Do the Orange come out on top?
I'm not actually assuming they're going to do those things, but it is a good thing to do. I'm going to say no, and it's going to be pretty ugly overall. 88-70. It's going to be a dominant Louisville win. They're going to put a stamp on their regular season, and Syracuse is just one game closer to ending the misery that's been this season.
This game is going to be as inedible as the core of a pineapple for Syracuse fans. 94-72, my prediction. Louisville comes out on top. I mean, it's pretty easy. The Cardinals are going to take this one in stylistic fashion.
I do agree with you guys. First time we're agreeing here that I think Syracuse does not get it done against the Cardinals, but I think this is really going to be Louisville trying to make a point, especially since they're not ranked anymore. Give me the Cardinals putting up 100 on Syracuse. 104-78. I think they just wallop on this Orange squad that really hasn't seen a whole lot of offensive success all season long. When you look ahead for Syracuse towards Pitt, a team they beat already as well, real quick, do you think they have a chance of at least ending the season on a win?
I would say probably. I mean, Pittsburgh is in as basically as bad of a spot as Syracuse right now, so that one's kind of toss and go. I'd say Syracuse has a solid shot, but it'll probably be the Panthers' game to lose.
I would probably agree with you. Syracuse will have one last show for the home fans out there.
One last show. We're wrapping up here on CC, but make sure you join us for Orange Press Pass after this one. A huge thank from everyone behind the scenes, and a big shout out to the birthday girl, Maggie Hoffman, so much. Thank you so much, and enjoy the game.